No, I don't see no point in love. She's a wanna lay you down. I my heart. I don't know if I'm in
Bruh.
The stream doesn't hear me, right? If I talk like this.
Testing, testing. We here? We live? All right. How's everyone doing? We're here to talk about some mapping. So, so we got 6 big names here. I'll leave myself for last, but we'll start off at the left end of the couch here.
Hello, I'm Sotarx. You probably know me on Twitch and for the few maps I made on the game. And yeah, I made a few maps.
I'm OLC. You might know me from maps like Madiba or Robot Stop. Sorry. Recently I mapped the NM3 for the tournament that's happening here. I'm so sorry.
So I'm Oli Bombi. You might know me for having created mapping tools. I always try to innovate in OSU mapping with programming.
Hello, I'm Peachy Fat. You might know me from making the tutorial. I say hello there a lot of the time, and I make mapping videos as of, I made mapping videos 3 years ago. So it's been a while, but I'm here to talk about mapping. Here you go.
Hello, I'm Aaron T. You might know me for some more streaming maps and tournament maps. Not so active anymore, but I'm still around. Hopefully, good questions from you guys.
Hi, I'm Yaspo. I'm an NAD. I help you. I'm an NAD. I help with mentorship, and I make a lot of tournament maps. That's the things I do. Yeah. So now the big man.
It's me, Halfslashed. So I'm mostly known for. Thank you. Yeah, so I've been around for at this point like 8 years or something. I was doing tournament stuff first, then I did mentorship stuff, and then now I mostly am known for course ace, tournament mapping, custom, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So it's kind of about me. So let's get started. Yeah. Okay, so first thing we want to start off with something fun. Normally these sorts of like panels and QAs, they like to start off with like the new mapper questions and blah 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 audience. Okay, we're skipping that. Let's get to the juice. We want to analyze your picks on controversial maps right here live. We're gonna play through the maps. We're gonna look them through, and yeah, let's see where we go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the first thing is like controversial maps. Like not everyone know what's a controversial map, right? So maybe we can like, if someone has an idea in the audience, what could be a controversial map? Anyone wants to like hit a shot and take in the microphone? You want to? All right, what's a controversial map, man?
Alien.
Alien.
Yeah.
Why is it a controversial map?
It got a lot of like bad reputation once it was mapped. and I remember quite a few drama about it. So yeah, that's the element.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Alien. Why is Alien a controversial map? Everyone knows Alien in the audience, like a map by Monstrata. We can, you know the map, Alien, right?
Yeah. Okay. So Alien, yeah. So the thing about Alien is this is all about the kind of aesthetic, right? So back in this was like a 2016 map or something, right? And the aesthetic that Monstrata was using is kind of weird. Let me just put it that way. But we'll just play out the map, and we'll talk about it a little bit more after. Yeah. So.
You have the map here.
Yep.
So we can give commentary while it's going, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, give commentary on the spinner.
On the spinner. Honestly, I think it might have been controversial at the time because it was so long.
No, I think you might be right on that one.
So for those who don't know, this map starts out like 250 BPM, and it's known for taking a very different aesthetic approach from normal maps. It's supposed to be like, basically, there was a whole idea of maps need to be pretty around 2016, 2017 when this came out. And Monstrata, who's generally known as a very aesthetic mapper, decided, I don't know if I can curse here. Screw all that. I'm going to make a map that is ugly but has an idea for being ugly.
Yeah, but for him it was aesthetics, right? Like when the song goes like, screamer modes, this is where he did like these ugly sliders.
Exactly.
Because like for him it was aesthetically fitting the song.
Yeah,
so that's what was controversial about the map.
There's logic to it. It makes sense, but it's also like not something people generally like at the time, especially.
People thought it's controversial because it's something you never seen before, like in the mapping scene, right? Like people objectively do something ugly to fit the song. So people were like, why? Why do you make intentionally ugly sliders? That's why it had like a huge of drama, so that's why it's controversial.
Yeah, it was also controversial for a part we'll see later. Half the map is like baby mapping, basically. After you see this insanity, and then there goes to like 2-star
Yeah, but
mapping.
then you blame the song, right?
Blame the song,
You blame the song.
Here, you
So something else I kind of wanted to add on that is most of the ugly aesthetic here was focused on the sliders, right? And so even today, right, if you talk to mappers, right, the biggest thing is they focus on the sliders. It's all about, you got to have the like perfect shapes or the, aesthetic, like equidistant, whatever, right? And this map is just like, nah, screw all that. However, all the structure itself is pretty standard, actually. You once you stop looking at the shapes themselves, you look at the map and it's like, wow, it's actually kind of standard. Lots of geometry hidden behind like all the mini micro tumors that were not tool generated, that sort of thing, right? So.
Yeah, if you look at the map, like if you remove all the sliders that are characterized as ugly, it's a regular map, right? Like it flows the same as our regular Monstrata maps, and
So like Amelia, the mapper, actually made a copy of this map that just made all the sliders clean, and it was pretty normal. Entirely what you're saying.
Adding on to that, I think I agree with most of the opinions here. I think if you look a little bit further away from the aesthetics, it's more or less a very standard jump maps that you can find a lot in these days meta as well. So that's my take on it.
I mean, yeah, these guys pretty much nailed it. It's actually a very regular map underneath ugly quote-unquote sliders. And here is a slow section that you fall asleep at. Yeah, have fun watching that, guys. I hope you don't fall asleep with us.
yeah.
Come on, guys, we're at the hot takes, bro. I didn't expect you guys to agree. What are you doing, man?
I mean, come on, this map is old, this drama is old, we know all the things.
Yeah, at this point, this map isn't controversial anymore, I think. Like, people just accept this as normal, right?
I think so. So, I don't know, people will still meme you if you actually try to put any of the shapes from the, first half of the map in your maps, right? It's like you're mapping, a TV-sized song for the latest season of anime, right? And you put in the ugly sliders, I think you will still get flamed. So, do not advise you do this unless you want to fend off some comments,
I actually think this is a good way to show really how the idea of ugly mapping has kind of changed over time, because you see the first half of this map and it's like the very exaggerated idea of what an ugly map would look like. There's all these tumors all over the place, and nowadays when a lot of mappers want to make something ugly, they might do it in a more subtle way, like varying the amount that objects overlap with other objects, or having odd angles everywhere, stuff like that.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. That's what I kind of disagree, because I don't think Alien is an ugly map. I think like the aesthetics of Alien would not fit on like any song, right? I think the song asked for this kind of mapping, so I wouldn't call it ugly. I would think like it's conceptual, if we can say that. And like the sliders, you know, when you have like these ugly sliders that everyone call ugly, it's when all the time the singer goes like screamer mode and thing.
I mean, it's still ugly though. Like objectively, it's not pretty mapping.
It's not objectively ugly.
Okay. It's not like, you know, clean vocals in a song. The song has screaming vocals, which are not clean vocals, and therefore uses not clean mapping.
Usually when I'm talking about...
Still ugly. It's just semantics at this point.
Usually when I'm talking about this stuff to other mappers, we make a distinction between clean and messy, and then ugly and pretty. So clean would be like, you know, the second half of this map. The first half is messy. But that doesn't... What's ugly and what's pretty is determined by context, and this map definitely has the context. It has this first half and it has the second half. So that's just terminology that I like to use with other people.
Yeah, ask me what I really mean about conceptual. That's all I'm going to say with that.
I think this is one of the maps that during the time there was also the concept of being nice, clean, as Pishy said, and there's also the concept of being fitting into the song as well. So I think this is sort of the crossroad that you start having later on as well. So at this point, I really do not think this is a controversial map. I think I would say it's a relatively acceptable sort of logic, I would say.
I mean, yeah, in reality it's kind of superficial, because like we already discussed, like the patterns are pretty standard, so all of the flows and the movements are all pretty normal. So you have these mess up sliders with this very simple flow, and it's just a mismatch of a concept, I find. That's my hot take. There you go.
Maybe we can like talk another controversial map.
Yeah. Let's get a juicy map out here. Right?
Anyone
like,
has a
we need the
juicy
red
controversial
meat.
map?
Like I need someone in the audience come up here with the red meat.
We can get a few. We can get like 4 people here, and then we'll check the maps. All right.
I would like to hear you guys talk about Spelunker. Spelunker.
Now we're talking. That's some real modern stuff. Let's go, dude. Let's go.
I have a fucking list, bro.
Oh, you have a list? Yeah. What other list? Oh my god, Squarter tries. Oh my god, Fallen Kreuz. Yeah, download this one.
All right. So I heard Squarter Trace. I heard Spelunker. I heard Fallen.
Oh, we have Shiten as well. Which one? No, but like she made 2 maps, right?
We can do both.
Okay.
There's 2 Haleys. Yeah, 2 Haley ones.
What, another one?
This is the conceptual mapping
Which
that
one?
I was memeing about a few seconds ago. So
okay, PP compilation as well.
Yeah, I think this is a OLC show. What? Yeah. You like talking about the conceptual mapping, right, OLC?
What?
Concept mapping, bro.
I think before we start, we should probably explain the context behind this map, like just what it is, because everyone's seen like the loved version of this, right? Show of hands. You did. I know you did. Thank you. So there's a loved map of this. It's like AR0, right? And it's all about memorization because it's AR0, obviously. In this map, aiming for ranked is like it tries to be a sort of memorization map while also having its own concept, as Halfslashed keeps saying over here. So it's 30 seconds of maps in a circle as a summary.
Bro, I don't know what you mean. I just heard about this map of the funny Twitter drama. Come on, man.
So when I saw this map, I think it was like fair enough. That's cool. I just didn't think that it would make such a big drama out of it. So my take on that is I like it. However, I would say that if someone tries to do this again, it will not have the same impact as this one did. It already lost the novelty.
For me, this is actually like an interesting game design question in the overall. Because like if you look at games, there's like no games that really require a lot of memorization, like long strings of memorization like this one. So that's why this map is seen as not accessible, because players are just not used to it. It is very niche, and yeah, you get a lot of drama with Peppy getting involved. It's all crazy, man.
But I think on the other hand, because this map is what it is, like LMT said, if someone did this again, it wouldn't have the same effect. And as kind of a side part of that, there's no map like this in the ranked section. This would have been like wholly unique. There's things that are kind of similar, there's things that you might have to memorize, but there's nothing exactly like this, I think.
I like to see chaos in the ranked section. I like to see this map ranked. You have to do a lot of crazy stuff to stand out these days with mapping. And I think this is one of the things that stands out, so I think it has a place.
Yeah, AR0 is something. AR0 is something that has not really been explored yet. Like there's a couple maps that go for it. Some by KTG Sir, some by Ryusei Aika, but overall not very many explored. This one is quite hard in that sense of it doesn't make rhythm readily intuitive, and it's like all in one circle like this. So yeah, that's something special for sure.
Another thing with this map is a lot of people weren't really complaining about the idea being presented necessarily, but more so that it's lazy to rank something like this, which is, I think, a really interesting topic that we can go deeper into.
Yeah, I remember right when this was like nominated, everyone was thinking, I'm a new mapper, I should be able to rank something like this because it's so easy. Exactly what you were saying. But what ended up happening, just for the context of everyone here, this map was vetoed by beatmap nominators after it was qualified, meaning it is not ranked now. It is one of the few controversial maps that actually couldn't get ranked in the end. Maybe one day that'll change. We don't really know yet.
The strat is to wait 2 years for everyone to forget about it and then just push it with like new BNs. That's the strat.
I mean, that's a soul fear method. Look at how that's going.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue into the next map then. Unless you have anything to add, Sotarks?
What is the next map? Squirtatris.
Oh, no. Squirtatris. Someone asked that, yeah. Then we do Fallen after, and then we do the Sheetans.
Wait, is it Squirtatris?
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. Oh, the map is loved.
Oh, of course it's going to make it there. Yeah, so if you guys are not too familiar with this one, so there's a mapper named Soulfear. They were kind of like the controversial mapper of 2010, 2011. And they're kind of known for, just kind of doing whatever, right? And so what they do is kind of like they fade in and out of the game, and they come back and try to see if they can rank stuff every couple of years. So this set came around, I think, for the first time. I think it was in like 2011, but it was just too hard at the time. They came back later after players got better, and then it was like, okay, well, the mapping meta had changed. You can't map like this anymore, pretty much. And so it got DQ'd. Then they tried again in 2018 when like there's some more accepting BNs, and it led to some more drama. Went down. Eventually, it never actually got ranked, but it got loved instead. So here we have it, and I'll let these guys explain some of the particulars.
So I actually don't know too much about the lore of the maps. I'm a bit new gen. So my reaction to this was that I actually think this one actually has pretty good. I think it's actually a pretty decent map. I think it's also a controversial take. So at that time, I was playing the game a bit more. I actually played this, and I think I really enjoyed it because as a stream player, you just monkey tapping. And I really liked it, so I was like, I'm not sure what everyone is so angry about. I think I really enjoyed it, and I think it deserves a place in the ranked section. However, that is just my personal opinion. At that time, it was more, it was a lot of drama. There was a lot of shouting and miscommunication in the discussions. So maybe.
I remember liking this map as well, actually. It's like, it has really fun rhythms. I remember people complaining about it, and it's like, it's just rhythm density, bro. Otherwise, like, I'm wondering, is this like the map that spawned the RC thread that is about industrial sliders? Does anyone remember that? No engagement.
Okay, well, we got two couches here, so we gotta have two sets of opinion. What do you think, Sotarks? Tell us how you really feel.
Will I get bashed if I say I like the map? No.
Oh, okay. Damn, well, you told us how you really feel, so I can't really fight you there, man.
No, but to be honest, I didn't really follow the drama. I don't really know the map either. I looked at it once and I was like, yeah, it's just controversial. I don't have nothing. I don't think it's a bad or a good map either. It's like, I don't know, I'm just indifferent about it. I didn't really follow the drama about it. That's why I'm not like stipulating my opinion or something.
I feel like when this map was trying to get ranked, were you even mapping Sotarks? Were you even mapping when this map was trying to get ranked?
I was mapping?
Were you?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was.
You was? Okay.
I just didn't follow the drama.
I see, okay.
It's too much text for me.
I feel like I was a fairly new mapper around when this was trying to get ranked, and I didn't like it at the time, but at this point, I've come back around to it.
I can understand why people don't like it. It's just like...
I mean, it has like a very, I don't know, outdated style with like the 45 and 90 degree angle stuff, but other than that, it just seems like a...
I mean, I'll have more opinion if we talk about PP compilation, as they said, but like...
What's this about PP compilation?
PP compilation, yeah, I mean... For me, it's still not a controversial map, but like everyone has different opinion.
Yeah, so as far as what I gotta say is I kind of grew up playing maps like this, so the style did not exactly off-put me, but I still, this is kind of crazy, right? Something to remember, at least I always saw in the discussions, is that Sophia came from the background of like playing BMS, and they were trying to emulate the feel of the BMS controller. Apparently, that is not a universally perceived experience. I've talked to someone in particular who has played BMS, and they were like, "That's BS. They're just making this up." Ah! And so I heard that, but yeah. Other than that, I don't really have too much of an opinion on this one. Actually, it's one of those maps that just kind of just exists for me. So.
Same. Talk about another map? Or we have another... Which map? Oh, Fallen! Kreuz. What a lovely map.
Man, I wish he was here in person to see this.
Not toxic, by the way. Top diff, of course.
Imagine your legacy as a mapper being you created an arrow. That's what this map is to me.
Hey, come on. He also just like ranked like 8 and 9 stars before, like left and right when people were not doing that. So there's more than that.
Right, but an arrow. It's an arrow.
It's an arrow.
Way more
it's an
important.
arrow.
All right, true AF right there.
So when I saw this map, I really didn't have an opinion, I think. It was just a super, super hard map, and I just don't really know if there was like anyone capable of properly judging it. So I think Kreuz tried to ask for some test plays, I think, but not a lot of people were too keen on that. So that was my impression that I had, but that was that was all I had to say. Yeah.
I distinctly remember the arrow slider as well. It's like I remember quite tweeting out like, "Look, someone can hit it," and I'm like, "Wait, you didn't know that before?" That's my experience with the arrow slider.
I know Kreutz hates this legacy of being associated with this arrow slider. Personally, I think it's really funny. I also put I saw the arrow slider a lot in maps to troll Kreutz specifically.
But like to talk about like the controversial part of this map, with everyone, kind of everyone agrees about it. It was like playability, right? Including like the arrow, like people always slider breaking on this, and even before the fixes, like even the Osu AI couldn't like hit the arrow properly, and I talked a lot about Kreutz about this because I was supposed to nominate this, then I got kicked before it. I personally love the map because I just love looking at it. For me, like this map is like a piece of art. Even though I cannot play it, I watch Kreutz mapping it. Kreutz like explained to me like every patterns and his intention behind this map, and like yeah, we can see like the arrow is coming, right? Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Just a little bit more.
Soon.
Oh, let's go, man! I love this map. Let's go! Yeah, I love this map. So for me, yeah, even playability, like I don't know, I'm too bad, and pretty much everyone here is too bad to play this map. And but for me, like this is the type of map that I can actually enjoy looking at the editor and like feel something while looking at the map. And not every map has this type of feeling. So
Yeah, this map actually is beautiful, as you're saying. It's like
the map is beautiful.
Kreutz may not have prioritized gameplay for a lot of people, but he knows how to make a map like that is absolutely stunning. And I feel like that's something that's really iconic with all his maps, especially if they're like some of the hardest maps that aren't just like trying to be hard. They're trying to be something else besides just difficult.
But I heard some top players actually enjoying playing this map. Well, there are a few, but I heard people like enjoying playing this map. So
Yeah, so this map is mechanically the way this one works is that so sliders are actually don't end where the slider end is rendered. They actually end slightly before. It's like 32 milliseconds or 36, something like that. And so when you get to this crazy SVs that let the like shape get to that like length in that short of a time, there's a place where you have to basically memorize where it ends. However, there's actually like a group of players that they kind of like learning maps so they can memorize where they end, and then just they feel rewarded for that. But those are what we call the quote unquote tech players, right? So.
Yeah, it's also something that I've changed my my stance on over time. I used to think that obscenely high SVs were not really healthy for mapping meta, but I started to change my mind when I see a lot of people actually enjoy it, and I think maybe it's just actually a skill issue. So
Yeah, if players like this map, then I will as well to some extent. Credit where credit is due. Kreutz comes up with a lot of unique patterns that a lot of people just don't use ever. So like he's a cool guy in that department. Of course, all the cross-screen jumps are maybe a bit much sometimes.
Yeah, this one's just not for me. It's like the opposite of what I like in mapping. So down to every level. So
we can move on to the next map. I mean. What was the next map?
yeah, so we're listening to the crowd here, and we hear "Fall in the Dark," so we are going to fall in the dark. Yeah, so this is from a Florida brethren. It's something, but we're in for a long ride. So, who here on stage knows about this one?
Of course I know about this map. You can look at it right now and you can see what's going on. This is the map. Okay. It'll be different for about like 20% of it, but like I feel like 80% is this, right? Is that right? Yeah, okay.
Wait, I don't know this map. Is it a Tycho map?
You'd think so. You'd think so.
It's a Tycho map, man.
It looks like it, but it's a concept map. We're back on concept mapping.
Yeah, they ranked the hit sound div.
Pretty much.
So the first time I saw this, I was like, yeah, wow, I like it. I actually played this. I think it was during the mentorship feedback lobby. It was just like messing around with stuff, and then I think we got one of this on the track list. And I was like, yo, it's pretty bass. So I actually don't know what the general perception of this after that, because I didn't actually follow the scene afterwards. But
you'll know it when you see it.
So I might have to ask you guys what happened afterwards. After it got ranked, or was it ranked? Yeah, it is ranked. So I have to ask the general perception of people.
The general perception was like, it's another one of those maps like, I'm a beginner mapper, I can literally stack objects all day, man. It's so easy. So yeah, this is a map, like it says a lot about what like name recognition means to an extent, but it also like, it's a lot about executions. Like there's a lot of progression in this map that new mappers will just not think about. There's like, oh, I have this 9-minute song and I have 1 stack in the middle. What's going to be around it? Well, here you have some sliders. Progression. But yeah, this is a map. That is like my opinion on it.
Going back to what I said earlier, I really think these sorts of maps, I know a lot of people that I know hate when I use terminology, but I like to call them reductionist maps. So this, what was it, Spelunker, and also Unbreakable is another one. You get these kinds of things that you just can't get with a different map. And for me, this was the only map that I played to really mess up my eyes. I had to go lay down after I played this map. So I guess that's something that's never happened to me with a map before.
I experienced the same feeling, because, you know, I have this tool called Hit Sound Studio, and it can create hit sounds, and it places all the hit sounds exactly in the center, pretty much like 90% of this map. And when you look at it for 3 minutes, all the approach circles starts blending together and creating like a fisheye effect in your eyes. It's really weird.
I still just remember when this map was introduced to me and they were like, yeah, Uberfast is killing the rank section, here we go again. But yeah, kind of what OLC said about the reductionist mapping, right? So usually when I'm talking about concept maps, I'm referring to maps that reduce a map to one concept rather than having one concept to kind of build ideas around. And this map kind of does that. So especially when it's some really obvious position gimmick, such as this in Spelunker, people tend to get really, really divided on it, to say the least.
I think one thing's interesting about this one is similar to Spelunker. A lot of people think it's kind of lazy mapping, but this one obviously has a lot more stuff going on. It's 8 minutes long for reference, and there's objects going everywhere. And you'll see when it gets to the chorus, it actually looks just like a normal map. But one thing I think is interesting is I feel like some people think it might be a problem that Uberfaz is NAT while he made this map, because it's like an abuse of power sort of thing. So they think like, because he's in this position of power, he can make maps that are extra controversial and get away with it just because he's a red name dude. What do you guys think about that?
Nah, he's just a goof. Like, there's nothing really to this, right? So it's more of, if you know the people, then you can get it through either way. BN, NAT, whatever, alumni, doesn't matter. You can just get it through.
I really do not think that if you're in a position or not, you can rank it. I think there will be always be people who are willing to have a look at least. And if I was still BN, I would probably at least give it a decent shot at nominating it. So.
All right, the map is going off. Let's go. This is the core section. In terms of the power abuse or whatever, it's like I'm in NAT and I'm also just a dude, and we don't actually exercise that much power over the community, I'd like to believe. So like there's no way Uberfast can like pull the strings like an evil madman and rank this crazy stacking map. That just doesn't work.
I honestly have a question though, because since like this map got picked, since it's controversial, right? We talked about Alien earlier, and Alien's mapping style only fits Alien and that type of song. We cannot copy and paste the map and put it like some other song, and the aesthetics won't fit at all. Well, can you call this like a mapping style? Like just putting like everything in the middle, just circles. You can map this on every song. Would it be okay?
Well, it's always about execution. Like every map, even if it's just stacked, it's like case by case basis.
Yeah, but the execution is the same, right?
Oh yeah. It's also like this is reductionist mapping, and reductionist is like you can apply it everywhere. It's like the minimalist art style.
Yeah, so this type of mapping works best on songs that have like one section where it's completely different from the rest, and so Uberfast kind of perceived that like synth solo as so unique that it required the rest of the map to be like a stack or symmetry based, right? And then so he like made the normal part for that one part. So that's kind of how he saw it, and I think it only fits on those types of songs, which are not as common as you may think, right? So that's kind of how you come to that conclusion.
So you're saying there are typical songs that require this type of mapping style, right? But like, so if I pick a random anime song and I say like until the chorus, I make it like one single circle, and then since the chorus is the most intense part, I make it an actual map. Would that work?
It depends. Do you call Sony C's maps actual maps?
I mean, in art, there's also like the magic of doing things first, right? Because Uberfast was the first one. You're probably gonna be a cheap copy if you try to stack circles until the chorus, right? You gotta be creative about it.
So I don't really think that the stacking thing is really like like the first one to do it. I think it's just like the first one to like try it for like the whole map like this. So the idea has always been there. So yeah.
Good enough for me.
Yeah, so part of the actual map's quote-unquote comment and tying together the spelunker and this concept, generally I think people have come to expect a lot more utilization of like the playfield when it comes to object placements. So when you restrict that too heavily in ways that don't make it like feel indifferent, such as some Hollow Wings maps, people tend to be like, what's going on? Like, why are you doing this? So the playfield component is pretty important to a lot of players and mappers as well.
There's also the thing about whenever a really controversial map gets ranked and people don't like it, they say, this is killing the ranked section. But whenever I've been disappointed with the ranked section, it's never been from something interesting. It's been from just these really mediocre maps that are getting pushed, and it's never been from stuff like this. That's just me personally.
Yeah, I'm not really sure that the average player thinks that way. They think like average maps are just good because they don't really have the sort of critical analysis that you have when you're looking at maps. But they see something like this and they think it's just kind of boring because it's like I don't move my mouse, I don't move my tablet. What am I doing? I think we're ready to go on to the next map though. This one just ended.
Yeah, we're going to the next map, and I also kind of just want to say we will definitely explore the topic that we just kind of brushed on there later in this panel. So lots about mapping perceptions and where people are at, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Let's move on to okay, I think that's fine for controversial.
Yeah. PP compilation will be the last map. The last map, yeah.
It's not in the tags. What's it called? Songs compilation. And which one?
without a number. There we go.
Yes.
The trick question is they're all PP compilation.
They're all PP compilation. This was the first one. So I guess I can start for why this was controversial, I think, because this map was kind of blatantly made to earn PP. It had the hardest section at the very beginning in it. Unlike most like songs compilations which go from easiest to hardest, this one went from hardest to easiest, and it made it so you could sort of retry until you got the hard part down, and then after that you're smooth sailing.
I think I didn't get away with it at first because the original title of this map was Ultimate PP Compilation, and it had the storyboard with like every time you hit 1-2s, it has like 1-2 PP particles going out of the 1-2s, and people were actually mad at this. But when I removed that, I didn't even change the map at all, and it got wrecked. So that was the controversial part in the end.
I suppose that's the part that they wanted it changed just so you don't want to promote
obviously
cheesing, exploiting things in the game, but either ways, people still understood the idea. They're going to exploit PP from this no matter what.
Yeah, but
and the ranking criteria can't really like deny you from mapping like this because it's not an objectively bad thing. It's just how the meta of PP earning works.
Yeah, but the ranking criteria, like, you cannot like abuse PP on the map. You cannot do that, right? Since that.
Yeah, I think that was added after this map existed.
That was added after this map, yeah. Because the whole concept of this map is to put like the despite at the beginning and then like decrease the BPM and decrease the intensity according to these songs. So we did the mashup according to that, right? So I couldn't like make the div spike at the end because it was a 150 BPM song. So that's why I put the hardest at the beginning. That's why it was the PP compilation.
Yeah, so I mean, what I think is that even if you put that clause in the ranking criteria, I don't think it really does anything. So the only way to, I'm not sure, discourage or to legitimize this even like jump mappings is that you have to change the PP system over time. I think which was kicked off because of that.
Oh, you definitely make a map like this in 2022.
So I do not think this is a bad map. I do not think this is like not legitimate. I think this should be in the system somehow. Like you have jump it's a very fun gameplay. Everyone likes to play jumps. So I do think like jumps map should be in the game, right?
I think it's a bad map, man.
You think it's a bad map?
I think it's a bad map, yeah.
I'm just saying like jump maps in general, they should be there in the game. I'm just saying like if this kicked off the fact that we're changing this PP system, I'm for it.
Yeah, it changed over the years. Now if you pull out a map like this in 2022, you'll get shit on actually, and close to ban. So you cannot do this anymore.
Bro, I'm just saying the most controversial thing about this is the background. That thing is mighty content reviewable.
No, it's not.
Oh no, don't talk to me about content review, man. Well, this map, well, I am Yasuo, and if you see me doing things in the community, that you know how I feel about these kind of maps. And that's about it.
Yeah, so no, but about the map itself, it's pretty standard, standard for Sotarks, and it's got all your favorite anime songs from Hitori Goto to Junshin Always to High Tai to I forgot all of them, but you know them all, you played them all, tens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of times. Yeah, okay, so I think more or less you get the picture map-wise, nothing else really there. At this point, we are going to move on to the next segment of the panel, and that is going to be Tool-Assisted Mapping, TAM, by Oli Bombi, creator of Mapping Tools, and yeah, tool extraordinaire, so he'll take the laptop.
So yeah, over the last 3 years, I developed mapping tools from just the very start. Back in 2019 at OSU event, I had just released mapping tools to the public, and now 3 years later, I added 10 more tools to it for a total of 18. And since we looked at Fallen's arrow slider, I think it would be fun to look at 3 different ways to make the arrow slider with mapping tools. So first thing, I'm gonna use slider merger to create the fallen arrow slider. Is it plugged in? So slider merger is a very useful tool to create symmetries because you can copy your slider and merge it to itself. So here we have Fallen's arrow slider. I'm gonna delete it. And then create it again. So first we just make the half of the arrow slider. I have to approximate this because that's unfortunate. Oh. We now have half arrow slider here, and I can you can copy paste the slider and flip it around with this shortcut. Oh, you have to flip it. Oh. Now we basically have an arrow slider. Now all we have to do is select both sliders and press the mapping tool's quick run hotkey. And okay, maybe it doesn't want to cooperate. Technical difficulty. It looks like mapping tools crashed. That never happens, trust me.
Yeah, I'm gonna post a GitHub issue.
So let's try that again. We go to mapping tools, just run slider merger, and then reload the editor. Now we have an arrow slider. But it doesn't look perfect, right? The real arrow slider is more symmetric, more triangular than this. So next up, I'm gonna use geometry dashboard to make the arrow slider. Geometry dashboard has a useful feature that allows you to make off-angle symmetries on any line. So right. We can see on the overlay there are lines and points visible. So if we select 2 of these points, we get a line between the points and some circles. I can now I can now press the snapping hotkey to snap my mouse cursor to these points and go along the line. Now we have one part of the fallen arrow. And we just need to trace this other slider underneath, which conveniently has all the points right there. And I can just snap to these anchors of the previous slider. And I want to show the symmetry feature. So we just select 2 points. We get this line in the middle, and use Shift-N to lock it, and then select that. And now all the geometry is mirrored on this line. And then I can just go to the mirrored point of this of the slider start to place the last anchor there. And lastly, you run slider completionator on it to completionate the slider. And that effect does it have? It places the slider end exactly on the last anchor. Look at that. Beautiful, right?
Beautiful.
Wow, I don't need to make my diagrams in MS Paint anymore. That's what I'm seeing.
And lastly, I can actually make a fallen arrow using the new tumor generator 2. Using only tumors. So
Tumor
first,
generator 2.
we make a slider which is gonna serve as the base of our fallen arrow. It's this one. We gotta completionate this as well. Now we open tumor generator 2 and open this as a preview. We add a square and make it a bit longer. Put it on the other side, make it a bit bigger. Now we add another layer. And it's going to be another square which will wrap around the end of this, this other square. It's going to be one big square. And then
So from this, I'm seeing that you know, the arrow slider was a tumor all along. That's kind of what I'm getting here.
yeah, that's absolutely true. The arrow slider and most of the sliders you've seen are actually tumors. This is the last layer we have to add. It's just a triangle, because the end of the fallen slider is a triangle. And we have to make this pretty big. I'm just gonna make it replace the end of this slider with a triangle. You can use the arrow keys to use more precise placements. Whoa. Very careful. Now, yeah. So, all that's left to do is run tumor generator and see our beautiful arrow slider. Now, what we can also do is change all the sliders to arrow sliders. We select everything here, everything in this bitmap. The tumor generated tumors from 295 sliders. Let's see what happens.
Beautiful.
Isn't this a beautiful bitmap?
You just proved to me that circles are the only objects.
Rain shower, anyone? Rain shower, Raruchi?
I mean, we've just been mapping with primitive tools until now. This is real geometry. Brings out the ruler and the compass and the sliderator.
Step aside, Marcus Wong. You have a new challenger.
So all you tech mappers and Kreutz mappers out there, download mapping tools now and use tumor generator too to create masterpieces like this. That's the end of my section.
All right, so thank you for that wonderful tech demo from Oli Bombi. Yeah. All right, so we are now going to move into an actual Q&A part of this panel. So kind of what I was looking for is we do them kind of by experience tiers. So we're going to start from the very bottom, people who basically have never touched the editor, to maybe being a few days into that. And we're going to end at questions for the 5 to 10 ranked map-ish type rappers, people who have quite a bit of experience. So we're going to cover the whole gamut, starting with the noobs. So who do we have for noob questions? Come on up, Sotox will handle that.
I have to ask questions.
Go pick people.
So people in the audience has a question. Who has a question? You? You? Okay.
Oh, come on, don't troll.
You first.
So during the interview, it was mainly just all of you talking about newer mapping. That's really cool and everything, and I totally agree with everything. But you didn't let him speak at all. He has said maybe 2 words the entire interview. He has said nothing. Do you not think you've said nothing the entire time? No? That's just it. You haven't. They haven't let you speak at all.
So since actually this guy doesn't have questions unfortunately, so I have 2 questions to compensate. One is for everyone. That is, what is mapping to your life or in Osu journey? What has mapping brought to you? This is the first question. And the second question is specific to OLC. I want to know what is a sentence theory. Thanks.
What? Sorry, what's the question? So the first one. Okay.
Sentence theory. Just sentence.
What is sentence theory? That one's for OLC.
Sentence theory is classified information by the High Mapping Society. Okay, but seriously. I was streaming. I was doing a map review stream, and I was talking about logic in your map, making it consistent. In order to make your logic consistent, what you can do is synthesize it into a sentence. So every time I have a snare, I'm going to space it this far away. That's spacing emphasis, right? Now you can think, oh, here's a snare. I'm going to space it this far away. That's just consistent now. And someone called that sentence theory. I don't endorse that name. I think it's dumb. But valid information.
Where does the sentence in the theory come from?
You're making sentences about your map, what you want in your map. And that allows you to map more consistently.
Yeah, so now that OLC show for the sentence theory has kind of happened, we're going to answer the other question: what has mapping done for you, pretty much? So we're going to start from the right with Yaspo, or left for your angle.
Mapping is a lot more than just mapping. So I get to meet all these awesome people today. And even when I started as a mentee, mentorship, I got to meet a lot of people. I became an organizer, became a mentor, got a lot of experience there. lot of unique experience, and then you become an BN, you get into NAT, and it's like you get to see all of these different angles of interacting with other people, and on top of that, just be creative and have fun with the music you enjoy. So overall, just mapping is a very expansive hobby for me.
So I see mapping as like a hobby that I really enjoy just doing in the game. So at one point, and I still do like Osu a lot. I play a lot of Osu, and then at first when I started mapping, I just wanted more metal songs for me to like enjoy in the game, and then that's how I started. And I think what Osu mapping has done for me was that it really expanded my music library. I really like metal still, but now I really like a lot of other stuff as well. So I think that's really cool. Another thing is like when you do mapping, you are sort of obliged to socialize a little bit. You talk to other people. That's how you start getting feedback. That's how you sort of getting ideas on how to improve your own maps. And that social aspects, I think, interactions you have with other people, I think that also carries on to other things in your life. How you should treat other people, how you should listen to people, and how you should give feedback to other people if you're in position to as well. So that's what mapping has done for me, and I think that's been a positive thing.
Cool. So for me, mapping has done a lot. I started in the same way as you, actually, LMT. I was thinking, like, I have all this music that I really like, and none of it is on Osu, so I gotta take initiative and be the one who actually brings it to the people. And so I did that at first, and then at some point, I started getting so invested in like the mapping world itself that I started caring less about what music I was mapping and more about like the mapping politics and the mapping ecosystem and all that. And through involving myself in that, I sort of realized that mapping itself, like, isn't really the main thing I want to be doing. I'd rather spend my time doing things that are like branching out from mapping, because there's so much involved in mapping and Osu that you can involve yourself in more than just placing circles on a screen. And for me, that's led to like so many different things. I've worked on so many different projects that have like, I'd say, changed the way I like perceive, I don't want to say content creation because that sounds like a meme, but I want to say like making things in general, creative avenues. And yeah, I think mapping has been the starting point for all of that. So I'm proud to have been a mapper for as long as I have, even if I don't map too much nowadays. But it's still, I have the muscle memory for mapping. That's what I like.
Yeah, so I have two parts to this. So the one part is what it's done for me in terms of Osu, like sort of goals and such, and the other is like what kind of skills did I actually get from all of this. So as far as Osu wise, I kind of like started mapping because I didn't see enough of the stuff I actually wanted to play. So I'm like, all right, well, you know, if you want something done right, you got to do it yourself sometimes, right? So I kind of started up with that, and I realized that I was missing kind of an outlet for enjoying music, because I was like, I used to actually play an instrument and you know, have actually played rhythm games in the past, like, you know, grew up with Guitar Hero, etc., etc., etc. So I'm like, all right, I was missing this outlet for music. So that's kind of what one of the reasons that mapping kind of worked for me. It also satisfied the game development sort of itch that I wanted to go for. Like most kids nowadays that grow up gaming, they want to be game developers, right? This is sort of my thing there. And then that's kind of that avenue. The other thing, though, is like once I started to actually get involved with the community and seeing like, okay, so there's all these projects to run, that's when I started picking up some like these management skills of like how to actually run things on time, how to get people to do things what they want, how to keep people like actually engaged and wanting to contribute to things, getting people excited, etc., etc. So kind of got a lot of sort of skills for managing people, working with people, made a lot of friends along the way, like holy crap. But it's like all of that sort of like managery stuff that helps a lot in the real world. Like when you actually get a job, like even if it's not really a people thing, like engineering, this stuff helps a lot because you can actually estimate how long things is going to take and what resources you need, rather than just having to BS and delay 300 times. And also you can, you know, say what you're going to do and actually accomplish it. So helps quite a bit in that sense. Mapping was the rabbit hole to like, you know, getting management skills pretty much. That's my story on that.
So to me at first, mapping seemed like a way easier way to get famous in the OSU community than playing the game. I really like sending my beat maps to streamers and get known that way. Also met a lot of people on the way from those Twitch streams, and that was a lot of fun. But nowadays I found that making mapping tools for mapping is a lot easier to get famous than actually mapping. Also, mapping is a really interesting topic to solve in computer science. It has a lot of interesting problems that I can solve and be occupied with, and it gives me a sense of purpose.
Don't be shy about looking for clout. That's basically what I got from that.
For me, I played OSU. I was getting into rhythm games, and I was like, wow, this is like the most fun game I've ever played. So obviously I'm going to click on the big edit button on the title screen and be like, hey, I want to make some of my own maps. I've always been interested in designing stuff. And then I kept doing it, and somehow I was good at it. And now I'm here. And there was one moment. It was actually Pishy's stream where you were doing the video for the FA, like the painting the boards, the physical version of the map. And I was talking in chat, and your videos were really, really important to me from like 2016 to 2019. And he said, oh, I don't know anyone in chat. Actually, I know overload code. And I was like, what? That's insane.
Do you think I wouldn't know you?
How did I
Come
get
on.
here? Yeah. So that's really been what mapping is to me. And I've also really like analyzing stuff. I really like figuring out how stuff works on like a basic level. And mapping has been a really interesting thing to do that with. So that's another angle that you can take mapping from.
So for me, it's a little bit different. When I started playing the game and like noticing mappers, I had like one mapping idol out of all the other mappers that I enjoy playing, but I had like this guy who made like these controversial maps and like push the limits of their maps and like get attention from the community by doing like something different. Of course, it's Monstrata. And then when I started mapping, I always, and what's still going now, I wanted to push the limits of like my maps in a controversial way to see how far I can go and do stuff that nobody has done before in that zone. And well, now I'm a little bit chilling a bit more, but like I got more all my amusement from that in the past like 4, 5, 6 years now. And yeah, pretty much now I just chill, and I just love making like all these like different projects that amused me.
Yeah, I think that we got that, so we're gonna ask some more questions. So that was actually not a newbie question, but that's okay. That was more of like deep, like what about us, right? But I guess since we don't have newbie questions, we can kind of move on to the next set of questions, yeah? Okay, so anyone who is in the audience that has been mapping for like, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, not really close to making something rankable, or thinks, what kind of questions do we have from those people? I don't see any hands. So how about anyone who is feels like they're close to ranking a map, like, or is making some tournament maps for? So look, we got one. All right, I'll go field that. Yeah.
How do I learn to hit sound?
All right. Okay, well,
I didn't hear it.
So the question was, how do I learn to hit sound? So anyone here want to take that? Yeah.
Sure. It depends what way, right? You can hit sound like different type of effort of it sounding, like basic hit sounds, like to key sounding, to like having like custom different type of sounds. If it's just about basic hit sounding, it really depends on what you map and like how you decide like your hit sound's gonna work. But like what I usually do when like I hit sound like a generic simple anime map or whatever is just like for each different instrument I keep like the same sample. Like for kicks I use like hit normals, for snares I use claps, finish for cymbals, whistle, and then whistles is the most complicated part because like you want to use whistles to cover like the rhythm that you're following in your map. That's like you never like that's what I do. Everyone has a different opinion about the sounding. Like I don't like to put, for example, whistles on slider ends on like stuff that you cannot hit because like you don't need feedback on stuff that you cannot hit. So like let's say I'm mapping vocals from a section, so I would like to put whistles on the vocals. If there's a solo and there's a guitar section, I'll put whistles on the guitar section. But apart from that, that's the most complicated part. I'll just use like samples for like basic like instruments. So as I said, like kicks, hit normals, clap, snares, finish, cymbals, and that's how I do it.
So I've hit sound pretty much the same way Sotarks does, but I feel like a way that you can actually learn how to hit sound is you just open a map, any ranked map pretty much, you lower the music volume to like 5% and you listen to it and you just see why do they put this certain hit sound on this thing. And they're going to do it consistently because hit sounding is like the most consistent thing people do in mapping. So
but there's something also I want to add, because if you do that, like a lot of people still tend to like hit sound the song over than hit sounding your map. And this is what I don't really enjoy in hit sounding, because they will be like, yeah, I'm gonna turn down the volume of like the map and I'm gonna hit sound what I hear in the song, and then it doesn't fit your mapping. Like as I said, they put like whistles on slider end, they put like they hit sounds like stuff that you don't need feedback on because you didn't follow that rhythm. And for me, like hit sounding is just additional feedback that you need on your map. So it depends really on your mapping style and how and which rhythm you use in your map. And yeah, that's how I hit sound.
I think it's also kind of important to know your tools. Like you have a goal, which is to hit sound what's in the music or what you want your map to feel like when people are playing it. And you know that you need to do things consistently to do that. Like what we were saying, snare is X and then like melody is Y. But you need to know your tools as well. So you have like normal, hit normal, you can put that on snares, that's what I do. And you can put like finishes, cymbals. You have two different types of finishes, soft hit finish, normal hit finish, and those sound different. You have two different types of toms. You have drum hit clap and drum hit finish, and those are different. And you can really learn these by, again, looking at other people's maps. Actually, you can do that for most things in mapping, but you can look at other people's maps, see why they did what they did. There's some people who... Oh, I just remembered something. Default, you don't need samples to hit sound. When I started hit sounding, I was like, okay, I need kicks, I need a snare, I need all this stuff because that's what I'm hit sounding to. But really, you can use the default hit sounds. Like it's fine. You can do that. You have a lot of freedom in that regard. So yeah.
So hit sounding is also a very divisive topic, even though it doesn't really get brought up so much. When you try to look at the hit sounds that of various maps you look at, there are certain people who use only defaults. They can add lasers onto it. The thing is about maps is that I think that maps also adds a slight layer onto just the song sometimes, and therefore you try to pick out the rhythm that you're making instead of just everything in the song. So when you look at the hit sounding, someone might have might want to highlight a certain rhythm. Another person mapping the same song will have a different take on it. And this is this is more or less more common now. I think it's not so much back in 3 or 4 years back. I think people used to hit sound a song more often, I think, back then, yeah. Yeah?
I was going to say, like, maybe more than 4 years ago, but like 7-ish years ago, a lot of people were still hit sounding as they were mapping, which is like a completely dead idea these days, I think.
Yeah, that's also a thing. So if you are looking out for hit sounds, I think there are a few people who are have a very particular ideas about it. A lot of the mappers actually do not care so much about hit sounding. They do it so that it meets their sort of minimum personal requirements. But that's just how it is. Yeah.
I think this is actually a really good place to actually apply sentence theory from OLC. Like you can just be like, okay, here is a snare. I'm gonna put a clap on it consistently. I would very much recommend familiarizing yourself with the shortcuts, because that's just gonna speed up hit sounding so much more. You can experiment more, and it's just gonna be a better time than clicking all the interfaces, which really gets confusing.
So I want to mention another thing. If you're gonna make really complex hit sounds with multiple custom samples, my mapping tools has devised another way to handle these kinds of hit sounds. I have a tutorial for this on my YouTube. It lets you basically make a mania map where each column represents a different sound in the hit sounds, and you can just add notes to that difficulty. And with the tools, you can convert that to also standard hit sounds, and it's much more intuitive and easy to use than regular hit sounds in that regard.
Don't direct copy from the Mania map, I'm warning you.
Tool-assisted mapping.
Yeah, so all right, any other questions from people who are like feel like they're just on the verge of ranking maps? Looks like we got one here in the front. One here in the front.
Hi. Yeah. So a question I have is, how did you find you were able to involve yourself more in the mapping community? So I feel like I feel like a lot of other people are at the stage where they want to talk to other mappers to improve.
Louder.
Sorry, I feel like me and a lot of other people are at the stage where they want to talk to a lot of other mappers to be able to improve and also just to involve themselves more within the community. So I was wondering, what were your experiences with that? And yeah, do you have any ideas?
All right, well I think we heard that. Sotox, why don't you start us off?
You have to repeat the question.
Okay, basically, okay, you know what? No,
So the question was, how do you start interacting with mappers as a newer mapper, because that's how you progress in mapping, basically. I was going to start with my experience. I think a lot of new mappers really try to, because I'm a sort of public mapping figure, a lot of new mappers try talking to me and being like, can you check my map? But I don't have the time to check everyone's maps. It's just how it is. However, when I was a new mapper, I also tried asking people who are really popular, please check my map, and I had the same sort of thing. They were too busy. They couldn't check my map. What ended up happening was I'd end up talking to people like Okoratu right there in the crowd. He was one of the first people I talked to about mapping, and like Mao, and people who are around my level, sort of. And we all sort of grew up in the same mapping environment. We learned to map around the same time, and unlike, it's impossible to really like get to know a mapper who's been mapping for like 10 years, because they have just such different experiences than you. But if you try learning to map from people around your level, you'll eventually be like Okoradu over there, or me on stage here, this sort of crowd. That's all.
I'm going to talk from my personal experience. When I started mapping, I wanted to like show my maps to people, and then like to other mappers, especially mappers that I like their maps, and I got shit on, technically, like literally insulted for being like a terrible mapper. That was like early 2015, and it was really frustrating, sorry. And like I'll tell you the true story. Mapping before, when I started, was a really smaller scene. Nowadays, it's a mafia, man. It's a mafia, and you have to social climb to like rank your maps, or like it really depends. Either like you're gifted at mapping and like you're a genius and you're like so good, and then like you can pop off by doing like these tech maps and like that everyone praise nowadays, because you don't want to map the G word, the generic, and then either you do that, and then from my personal experience, like first I discovered like you I had to be BN if I wanted to rank my maps, and then apparently like it worked out. And nowadays it's more complicated because like I hear a lot of mappers on my stream that ask me the same question as you asked. Is like, how do I get my map noticed? Is my map rankable or not? Is like why I don't find BNs? It's always like the same questions, and my only answer to that is like get a group of friends, like start mapping together, because it's the same as Pishy. I like when I started mapping, I started like with the same crew, like Akitoshi, Kalibe, all these guys. I started at the same, and so we were together and we started like to GDs on each other's sets, trying to get a name, trying to like improve together at mapping, and then modding, and then all the thing. You get into the scene, and then in the end you will get recognized, and then even get BN yourself. It works as well. And yeah, if you're like alone and you try to like get feedback from other people that you don't know, it's pretty hard. That's why like it's always better to like start with a friend, start with another friend, like get like feedbacks from each other, instead of like going directly to the big names and ask for like feedback and then or a nomination or something. Yeah, so that was my perspective.
Just want to quick add on to that. So I think mapping with a bunch of friends, like around your same level, has its own upsides as well. As things like, so established mappers, when they talk to a person they don't really know, even when they see the map, it's like they don't really like it. They cannot be so candid about it, right? They just can be like, okay, I'm sorry, it's not really that good. I can only say you quick things about it, but that's about it. But if you take it to a friend who is also improving at your rate, they'll be able to be honest about it, be very critical, and you start seeing more things about it. And I think that's honestly much better than just asking someone who's so famous that they don't have to look at your maps in details. That's what I think.
I don't know about the other people on this couch, but I get DMs from people like new mappers or like people with medium amounts of experience asking me to look at their maps and give them feedback, and I do that. So you can DM me or something. What do you guys think? Are you guys okay with receiving DMs?
Yeah, so I kind of am also open for DMs, but it's still like a little limiting as far as basically the actually like improving at a consistent rate, right? So there are limitations because again, you don't really know the mapper, you don't really share the same experiences. So basically, it's good for like some quick checks along the way, but not so much the what you need to actually go forward for long term. In that sense, what Sotark said is spot on. Like get a group of people that you like interacting with, make GDs for each other, mod each other's maps, roast each other about anything, including life, and yeah, that is kind of how you go forward.
I have also one tip. If you're a new mapper, don't ever map with the thinking of like going for rank. That's like the most frustrating like part of mapping. If you're like your only objective is to rank your map, you're gonna just end up being sad, because like you will spend more time looking for BNs and looking for like mods and like finding out why you cannot rank your map, rather than like spending time in the editor and getting better. And I talk from personal experience because I wanted to rank so many maps before my first ranked map, and it's really bad. So focus on improving rather than ranking your first map, because ranking in the end, once you're good, it's nothing. It's just you rank your map, and then it has a leaderboard. It gives PP. That's it. It shouldn't be like an objective in your mind to rank your map. First, like improve, and then you can rank.
Well, I kind of skipped a hurdle in the whole socializing thing because I made 2 maps and ended up in mentorship. So I was like, well, that's easy. The main thing I learned from that though, starting out, is that like feedback is only as much as you make out of it. Like if you start ignoring feedback because it's bad, then you're also doing a bad job as a receiver of feedback. You should, even if it's bad feedback, you can be like, okay, what if I take on their view and figure out what they're seeing and what I want to do with it. Even if it's like a small thing, you're gonna improve a tiny bit and you can go forward with anything.
Yeah, so also one other thing as far as methods, it's also kind of worth noting that me, LMT, Yaspo all met in the mentorship program, right? So that's kind of how we got to know each other. But another important thing here is we mentioned how peer feedback is important. You need someone to actually start that cycle. So for me, it was like I was giving feedback to anyone who would make maps. And so, for example, Mir especially was shoveling out like a new map every day. I had a new map to roast every single day for like 2 years straight. And so that like helps you because you learn a lot about mapping from modding as well. So he was making maps, I was learning how to mod them, and we kept that cycle going. Other people saw the energy, hopped in, and we are where we are, right? So that's a little more practical. It's just like find people that you can actually give feedback to, talk candidly to, and enjoy the process. It's not about the destination.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I think we I guess we'll move on to another question. Yeah, looks like there's a handout here.
Okay, so it's actually a newbie question. If I'm trying to learn mapping more, is it better to try and learn from ranked maps or start doing your own thing and just develop your own style from that?
Woo! All right, do you guys need that repeated on the stage?
Yeah, I got it. Everyone got it. I think we all have different opinions here on how to begin with. I usually reply to this question a lot, and from my personal experience, what I did is I have a bunch. Every time it changed, but I have a bunch of favorite mappers, and I look at my favorite maps from them. And then I try first to understand how they did that and analyzing their maps. Actually ask myself, why do I like these maps so much? Why do I like playing them, and how they eventually came up with that shit. And then I look at some other mapper that has a different style that I also enjoy, do the same thing, and then try to reproduce it on my maps with my own take. And then try to improve, continue mapping, and then get other inspiration, change as well. I think it's mapping is everyone inspires someone else. I don't see any mappers that have no inspiration. Everyone has favorite mappers, and our favorite mappers have favorite mappers. Pishy even made a website with that, with all our inspirations, and there's a tree or something. It's really interesting. You don't see anyone that's no, I don't have any favorite mappers. I created a new style from scratch. That is false. Someone started. And yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Sotarks gave a great answer there. I just kind of add to that and say, just kind of in more explicit terms, your mapping opinions are not formed in a vacuum, right? You have played the game likely to some extent, and that will heavily influence the types of maps you are trying to make, whether you are aware of it or not. So, basically, the sooner you can figure out what is common between the maps that you like as Sotark said, the sooner you can figure out who you are inspired from. Not necessarily doing direct copy patterns a la Skystar, right? But just looking at the general sort of, I like to call it a map genre, right? So if you like alt maps, right? There's people that have done those in several different styles, right? Name a buzzword. There's you can find the type of niche within that buzzword that kind of describes the types of maps you're trying to make, or just even ask around, right? So a lot of people could probably direct you. NP maps is I'm looking for maps like this. People do this in player discords all the time. You could do that, try to figure out what mappers are constantly making these maps, how popular the style is, and then go from there.
Yeah, there's a lot of different approaches to this. I see a lot of new mappers, they try a bit too hard to copy someone, and I think that is also not healthy. If you try to start from the very start, it's also not healthy, as Soultalks and Halfslashed tried here to convey. Something in between, you have inspirations, right? You try to look at their maps, look what they try to do. Incorporate that in your map, but you also have your own ideas. Just ideas is fine. You develop these things as you gain more experience by making maps, and as you do that, you also do that. Ask other people what their opinions on it, get the feedback, go on and go on. That's how you improve, I think.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it. I remember I also started with PC videos myself. So I remember watching one video that like covered the progression of Dietz's style, and it's basically your style is a collection of experiences. So you gotta start mapping before you get those experiences, and then things will start coming together as you get more feedback, as you communicate more about mapping, as you see more maps as well. Stay open-minded, and something will come out eventually. It's like getting hard stuck on a style does sound like a bad idea in general.
So most of what I'd say is already been said now, but I think one thing that's important to remember is try not to really bottle yourself into one specific style, because you're gonna, as you improve, you're trying to like, or at least a lot of people try to get to a baseline rankable level, but once you're past that, you don't really want to stay at that baseline rankable level. You want to be able to move past that and do something that's actually interesting, because baseline rankable is kind of boring.
Well said, everyone. Okay, so if it seems like we're kind of past the newer questions, right? So for more advanced people in the audience, so we're talking couple ranked maps, like eligible for Mappers Guilds. Come up and ask some questions. Some memes are allowed, but we do want to talk about mapping. Blue shirt guy. You in the blue shirt.
A bit of a concept-related question. If you could add a new game element to the game in OSU Standard, what would it be?
Everyone hear that up here?
Can you repeat? What was this?
If you could add a new gameplay element, what would it be to OSU Standard?
I can start? Okay. I would really love to like have custom circle size over the map. Custom circle size, custom AR. So like depending on like the intensity of your song, especially like for Alien, for example, because Alien, the last part is AR10, and it's literally uncomfortable to play. I would love to like customize and have like decreasing circle size over the intensity, and then growing it back up, and then like change the AR, and have like a whole like guidelines about this. And I think it would create like interesting new type of maps.
I think I'm going to second that, especially for my low AR homies in the audience. Let's lower that AR as you get to the more intense sections, yeah?
One thing that kind of already exists, accelerating sliders made by this man right here. That's what I want to see. Like legitimately acceptable though.
Custom AI is probably the biggest thing in my mind. There's a lot of things that you can do with it. Even just the simple applications, like you want higher AR and a more dense section, and then just a lower AR and calmer sections. I think it's almost going to be a standard at some point.
Personally, I can wait for like functional 2B and with touchscreen devices, because you can do so much swiping motions with just sliders at that point. And it sounds super fun.
And just basically set the AI higher as well, like to AR11 at least. Like since people now are mapping like 12-star maps, it will be better to like increase the AR for these type of maps. At least 10.3, right?
Look, I'm just good with if we could get like proper hold note support in this game, that would be really good. Like essentially that would allow us to not have to rely on like this glitchy 2B mechanic to get like a hold plus an extra input, and then you could probably do all kinds of crazy stuff with cursor movement on top of that. I think we're all good up here.
Other question?
All right, white shirt up here.
White shirt. Yeah, so we have about 7 dinosaurs on the stage right now, so I want to ask, how do you keep up motivation? And Sotark's answer is money, of course.
How do you keep up motivation?
What did he say after?
How do you keep up motivation for the dinosaurs on the stage?
Oh man. Someone want to start or I go?
We start off with Yaspo. He's the biggest dinosaur.
I'm a dinosaur apparently. I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years at this point, so yeah. I don't really care about motivation so much, because like I'm constantly in the tournament mapping train, so like that train never ends. So like if I'm always mapping, I don't really need to be extra motivated or like do special tricks. I'm just enjoying my time.
I think the biggest like motivation is like actually playing the game in what feels fun, and then you want to test other people's on it. There's a little bit of sadism in every mapper's intention.
Well, I haven't mapped really in like a year. I feel like I've made a few maps, but it's much less frequent than I used to do. So I'd say the problem is my motivation goes towards other things within the OSU community rather than mapping at this point. So the answer is I don't have an answer.
Yeah, so for me, it's just that I have a lot of crazy ideas, but I have historically been a really slow mapper, and just like I have a lot of mapper's blocks. So it's like I can map for like 2 weeks straight, and then I die for 2 months, right? So the way I keep up the motivation, right, is to kind of write it out while while I have it, and then kind of like relax and actually let myself recharge for a couple months. It's okay to like quit mapping for like 2 to 3 months, come back, pop off, then repeat the cycle, because that's just kind of how the motivation works. But what generates that for me is I've got all these crazy ideas that like I've wanted to see reused, right? In some of the very earlier years of OSU, like 2009, 2013, they had all these crazy ideas, but only a few of them were carried forward to like the more modern styles. So my thing is I like to revive these old ideas that everyone really hates, right? So like that's why you see the 2009 patterns in my maps. So it's stuff like that that keeps me going. And then kind of once the custom mapping stuff started off, right, I get asked to make maps all the time. And usually I wince because they're like, oh man, I have to map another AR8 map. And it's like, but that forces me to come up with new ideas, and that's kind of what like keeps me going, right? So people asking for things, it gives me an idea of what people are looking for, and it's kind of like a creative challenge. So
I'm gonna reformulate the question for me to how do I keep motivation in making mapping tools. So I mostly like helping people. So when I release new tools and I see people use them and saving a lot of time, that makes me really happy and gives me a sense of purpose. Also, through making mapping tools, I'm improving my skills in computer science, and that makes me feel like I'm spending my time wisely instead of mapping. And it's just been really helpful in my mental health and my skills and my grades at school, university.
For me, I've completed maps where I've hated the map like the whole time, or at least like 2/3 of the time. And I think the way I did that is you just map a certain part every day. Like I kind of hated the map I made for this tournament, the NM3. I did not like that map when I was making. I'm like, this is too hard. But every day I would map like 5 seconds, and I started right from when I got assigned. So I actually finished before the deadline. So that's how I deal with that personally.
I've been mapping for 8 years now. That's well, and how I keep motivation is like different. It changed over the years actually, and it's always different like subjects. And one of them is like I always wanted to like I love like to mix styles, like get like 3 or 4 mappers, and then 3 or 4 mappers, and then like create my own style out of it, and then like practice for a while, and then change, and then do that again, repeat. And also, well, nowadays, what motivates me the most is like I barely map off stream now, so it's mostly my audience, and I map only on stream now. So I guess that's the main main reason why I'm still mapping now. And I try to like not get bored while I'm mapping. So like finding songs that I actually enjoy, that's a really hard part. Finding backgrounds as well. And yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, okay, so I think we answered that one. Any other questions out here? You with the blue logo, with the Guess the Rhythm Game Challenge. Yeah, you.
So I've been playing for a few years now, and I've noticed over a decade that maps tend to have less and less breaks. And I just wondered what your thoughts are about that, if you have any.
All right, so that's basically, what are your thoughts on breaks in maps, or lack thereof?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's something we might want to bring back at some point as an idea. But the thing with mapping is that, like, this sort of philosophy that people think about now is that people want to bring more to represent the song more. Therefore, and then there's a stigma that if you don't map a certain sections, you kind of being lazy and stuff. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I actually don't like, but. Just like from my instinct, I just map it anyways. But it's a good point. I do miss maps from back then that they give you breaks in between. Actually, like usually halfway through, even just some guitar solos that it just doesn't being mapped, so you can rest your hands a little bit and then just enjoy the music. I think that's something some of us might try. I think that's a good idea.
Really quick, I think a big reason why there's more breaks in older maps is because older maps were based around when Oenden existed, and Oenden had breaks like required because of the storyboard stuff that was going on. So a lot of the inspiration back then was Oenden maps, and that sort of carried over within the first few years, and then that died out as time went on.
Yeah, so I have a little bit less of a charitable take for some of the break usage. So in older maps, there were score limits, and that capped a lot of what you could actually do. So people had a lot more breaks then compared to now. Those have now been removed from the ranking criteria. But also, people use them as a way to kind of like meet drain time requirements. This happened because, you know, the 5 minutes for one diff requirement for spreads has been around for quite a while, but it's been recently loosened up. At least in the past 3 years, we now have it scaling based off of length. So it's like if you have length and difficulty, right? So 4 minute and 15-second insane diff only stuff. You can actually like have breaks if that's a 5 minute song to get that, and you don't have to make more diffs, right? So you have stuff like that is enables more breaks, but it's like this shaped time for quite a bit. Also, tablet versus mouse, like tablet adoption has a role in that. It's a lot easier to have mouse drift with a mouse, of course. Yeah, that's an exclusive phenomena, and that is obviously makes breaks preferable on the like longer songs compared to a tablet. You don't ever have to worry about that. So tablet dominance, I think, influenced that as well.
Personally, I know there's a lot of people who like breaks, but I just really like playing marathons and like sweating, you know? I just want to just go, or like time warp to the end. So that's usually a philosophy that follows in my maps. I map a lot of marathons and they rarely have breaks. That's just me personally. That's just me mapping what I like to map. I don't know if that's everyone though. It might be other people just mapping what they see other people doing, and they don't consider that breaks are an option to put in their map.
Yeah, let's just take it to the next level. Break extensions, man. Those got to come back in fashion. Come on, man. All right. Anyways, I think that's what we have on breaks. Anyone else have any questions? Or okay, let's see. With a sticker on the head. Sticker on the head, boy.
So there's an element in the song setup called the countdown that was used a lot in the past. And a lot of modern maps don't really use this feature anymore. And when a map starts without any preceding audio with a circle, you're going to only pretty much have the approach circle to rely on. So what are your guys' thoughts on the countdown feature for that specific situation, especially with slider head leniency perhaps disappearing in laser and slider head leniency not working anymore for that purpose, for maps starting without any preceding audio? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. So this feature you just asked about might be taking an L among some of these mappers. So let's just get started. Anyone want to take that? Anyone? No. So the question is basically the utility of countdown. What do we think about that?
So, I made a mistake when I started mapping. I had a skin that didn't have the countdown enabled. It didn't have the audio or the visuals. So I think a lot of my maps have countdowns and I didn't even know it. As for like the actual question though, I feel like because it's at the beginning of the map, it doesn't really matter that much. You could just retry. It matters a lot more for like a tournament setting because obviously you don't get to retry, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't given too much thought. I just wanted to say my skin sucks.
I think the reason why mappers don't put it in so much is because mappers do care about like immersion, and then the countdown doesn't really follow what's doing in the song, especially when it's so calm and you have the countdown blasting in your ears. Is probably not for some people, they don't really like it, and then especially mappers. But I understand the implications that you could have with the countdown. Not sure what the general opinion is.
From what I've seen, or what I think about countdowns anyway, if you're including a countdown in your map, that's going to say something specific about how your map is and what you were thinking while you were making it. Maybe that it was inspired by older mappers, but the fact that nobody uses countdowns nowadays kind of leads to that. Like, people see a countdown and they're expecting something pretty specific.
I mean, personally, I'm just like, I don't want to wait to play the game. That's why I don't like the countdowns. Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, also one other thing to add with the countdown is I feel like there was a social norm in like 2014 or so where like every modder would basically tell you to disable widescreen and countdown. Don't remember if it had how it had to do with the ranking criteria, but it was kind of propagated well throughout. So I'm pretty sure most mappers just kind of stopped thinking about countdown, and that's probably why no one has kind of tried to bring it back. So there's the honest answer. So. Any last questions? We have like one last part. Okay. You.
So what happens a lot is that mappers, when they start going to maps, they make like 5, 6, or 7-star maps because that's the most fun. They make one dev, they go to another map and stuff, and after maybe some time, they think about like maybe a ranked map, but they learn that they need to make a full set with like easy, normal, hard, and insane, and they have completely no idea how to like map these lower diffs. And my question is, how make mapper like look or learn how to make like lower diffs, like make whole spreads and easy difficulties, basically.
Yeah, so while I relay that to the rest of the team here, all I'm saying is the Low Diff Assurance team is sitting in the audience, and you can find them for further help on specifics. But let's see who else has answers for that. The question was basically, how do you get into learning to make low difficulties, assuming you figured out how to make a high difficulty pretty well?
The question was he wants to learn how to make low difficulties, right? Well, I will again talk from personal experience. I learned how to make low difficulties after like learning how to make like higher difficulties, because I know a lot of mappers out there were trying to actually rank their first map. They will say, yeah, it will be easier to rank my first map if it was a normal or an easy or a hard diff, because it's much easier to map. So they keep on mapping normal and hard diffs, and in the end they don't know how to map higher diffs. So I would say it's something like it becomes automatic when you just like map a lot, like, and you mod especially, you just enable distance snap, and then you follow the song and like easy rhythms, and then you just don't make your map look terrible, and then you have a normal and easy diff. I don't think it's anything like you don't have to have a PhD in mapping to make like normals or easy. It's like really easy, so just like don't focus on that. It will come with time, and yeah, that's it.
And like Sotak said, making low diffs from higher diffs is actually a pretty simple process. It involves getting the most important beats out of a song and focusing on that only, so the rhythm becomes less dense, and then you put all the objects in distance snap in some nice flowy configuration, and then you basically have a low diff.
Yeah,
maybe it could even be automated with a mapping tool in the future.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about. Like the hardest part of making a low diff is coming up with rhythm that is not too hard and like easy to play for like new players, basically. And that's why we're talking with Oli Bombi with the mapping tool. I would love like to imagine like on the map, I just like place rhythm anywhere, and then I put it in the mapping tool, and then the mapping tool just generate the normal according to the rhythms I made for the normal and the easy diff. Since you have it's a rule, you have to enable like distance snap for like easy and normal diffs. So it would be cool to be like auto generated.
So this is a proof of concept that I actually had like a bit of work in already, so maybe you see something come out of that in the future.
Give me neural network generated low diffs, please. Thank you.
Yeah, nobody cares about low diffs.
Yeah. On a serious question before I pass it to LMT and Jaspo here. So the low diffs, the main skill is like people said, focusing beats. I just reduced this down to rhythm simplification. So which is also necessary for mapping really dense types of songs, right? So you kind of need to learn this at some point, because it's like you need to be able to put rhythm on basically any song to really call yourself like a higher tier mapper, right? So that sort of thing is like you learn the high diff, and it's like okay, you can map this density, but there's still plenty more to learn, and you can kind of practice that skill with low diffs. After that, basically the best tip is get a second monitor. Put the ranking criteria on one screen and put the editor on the other, and you will be able to make a low diff that is rankable, I assure you.
I do have a slightly different take. I think a lot of people making really high diffs actually don't know so much about making low diffs. I think a lot of times you have over bloated density. Using wrong ARs and wrong settings. I think those are real main concerns, but it really is not complicated, but you just have to learn how to do it. You have to know how to manage object density, how much tapping density that you are putting on, especially things like hard and normal when you try to introduce the game mechanics to the new players. That's really important, I think.
Yeah, some overall planning in your mapping is pretty useful when doing low diffs. So you don't start out with too much clicking and then suddenly you come at the chorus and you're like, oh, it's way more intense, but I already used all my space to have clicks in. So that's one thing. And another thing is just like reading the ranking criteria. There's a lot of like useful statements as what is expected in low diffs nowadays. And then just matching it up against existing low diffs, because there's a lot of cookie cutter low diffs out there that you just can almost copy. You can just look at it and be like, oh, this is a normal diff, this is a hard diff. And then once you get to the insanes, you can start mapping more normally again.
Okay, so I think we answered that one. So since it looks like we kind of answered most of the questions here, we will be moving on to what I call the brain segment. So this is what we wanted to finish off with some quote-unquote high IQ mapping talk with me and Overload Code. And so Overload Code is gonna, walk through a concept and explain it, show examples, etc., 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 and I'll follow up with something else. So.
Oh, I'm in the center. Okay.
Yeah.
So what should I like? I mean, the easiest place to start is how do you approach mapping? Like, how do you? I'm sorry. Mapping can be broken into 3 areas, pretty much. Whenever you see any object, whenever you play any object, you have to see it, which we call visuals. You have to move to it, which we call movement, and you have to click it, which we call rhythm. Each of these 3, I call them aspects of gameplay, or just aspects. You have to control it in some way, or it's going to be random. And if your map is random, you can have. I'm sorry. If your map is random and incohesive, that's why things look bad, or they play bad, or they feel bad to click on your keyboard. That's also why we make the distinction between messy and bad, because there's logic you can apply to maps to make them messy and make them better. But just throwing objects at the screen isn't going to do it. So that's my introduction to mapping theory in a nutshell.
Okay, yeah, so I'll just kind of finish this off with a PSA then, and that is that sliders are a crutch. So just explaining this in more detail, something I commonly see, especially among mappers who prefer more simple stuff, is basically we're starting to see a lot of mappers trying to pattern like really heavily, and as a result they don't actually know how to use like circle-based jumps, for example. Lots of kick sliders, etc. That's one symptom. The other thing is because of this, like people kind of like put sliders too close together, and this hurts the overall play experience of the map because it's like you have no movement because, say for example, 2 1/2 sliders next to each other, and then it's like you're moving like barely any of the screen, and it's taking like 2 seconds, and then it's like you're already hovered on it. You're just waiting the whole map, stop and go, stop and go. Not fun for a lot of people. So the PSA here is to spread those sliders wide, and try not to focus so much on making patterns with like every set of objects. Try to spread that out and get the gameplay, then pattern it kind of afterwards. That's my PSA there on sliders. So.
Yeah, talking about sliders also, this is kind of a tangent, but earlier when we were talking about controversial maps and we were talking about Alien, I thought about Pishy's video on Alien, and I thought specifically about, I've thought about this for a bit actually, the part where he says, I don't think it's a bad map because it's messy or it's ugly. I think it could be better because a lot of it is messy or ugly in different ways that don't go together. And do you remember when that video was released? Like year? Do you remember what year it was? No? Well, yeah. That's such a ahead of its time take. It's kind of crazy because there's still people, even people involved in the theory community, I'm not going to name names, but if you know, you know, who have trouble with cohesive slider design. And cohesion is really, you can think about all of visuals, or kind of all of visuals. You can think about all of execution as just, how can I make my map more cohesive? How can I make it cohesive? I kind of equated in my brain with like, cohesive visuals look good, and incohesive visuals look bad. And I think that's not a big leap.
Yeah, fair enough on that. All right, so I think that's what we have time for, yeah. So thank you all for coming to COE 2022 Mapping Q&A Panel Extraordinaire, whatever. Yeah. We'll be here all week, some of us. All right, let's go. Let's roll out. All right. Whew. Yeah, we made it. It was 2 hours.
Supposedly 2?
It was supposed to be 2, yeah. Yeah, so I'll let them handle the routing there, and yeah, I'll log you out of my account. Yeah.
Where's the second mic?
jaded. You could have found the one, but you won't change. So aren't you glad to meet me? I think you should, I'll be glad to meet me. If I were you, aren't you glad to meet me? I think you should. I make a real good song out of you, time and ticking slow. Yes, you're overdue, aren't you glad to meet me? I think you should. I mean, I really think you should. Yeah. Aren't you glad to meet me? I mean, I really think you should. Keep on playing, saying it's in your nature. Then you're gonna suck and blame it over you. Wanna make you set you up for failure. Should be proud I'm here and you. So aren't you glad to meet me? I think you should, I'll be glad to meet me. If I were you, aren't you glad to meet me? I think you should.